Hey, everybody, and welcome to ISTE 2021. I'm Fred King, and I'm Business Solutions Architect with Cisco, and I'm excited today to be talking with Corey Schultz. We're going to be getting sassy with sassy, so looking forward to the conversation. And so, as you know, if you attend 3 Cisco sessions this week, you are eligible to be put into a raffle for Apple AirPods, and you will also receive a Cisco Igloo mug. So please attend multiple sessions. We look forward to your attendance and seeing you at all the sessions. This is a list of our upcoming sessions. Please feel free to grab a screenshot of that so you can kind of see what we're doing throughout the rest of this week. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Corey. Corey is an area leader for the security architecture for SLED East, and he's presented multiple times for us, and we're looking forward to the conversation. Corey, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. And thanks for having me again to participate in this conference. I'm going to be talking a little bit about SASE today. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to set my screen up and just get things shared out here. And we'll go ahead and get started. So let's do the presenter view. And I believe everybody can see that. Fred, if I could get a nod from you. Awesome, awesome. I think we're good. So thank you. Again, as Fred said, my name is Corey Schultz. I run security architecture for SLED East. And we're going to be talking about a new concept behind how you can secure your school system. And just for a little bit of information, everybody always asks, what is this SASE thing? You know, what does it stand for? So Secure Access Services Edge. Somebody spent a little bit too much time coming up with this name, but I think as we go through this, you're going to find out how that applies to your environment. But what we're really talking about is combining under that SASE acronym, security network, the cloud, subscription type services, things of that nature. So real quick, what's been happening? A lot's been happening over the last year and a half. We all know what's been going on. But we've also seen that shift in the landscape. Now, this shift in the landscape has occurred earlier in the commercial environments and things of that nature, but it certainly has occurred within the educational space as we look at this as well. You know, if we go back in the K through 12 space, you know, it used to be a couple computers, it started off being, hey, there was a room and there were some computers in it. And then we moved to, maybe we had a couple computers in every room to a rolling cart to now we've really got everybody having some type of mobile device and encouraging BYOD with students and things of that nature. But that's on the user side of it, the student side, the professional side of it. On the other side, we've got all of our cloud applications, our LMSs, learning management systems are in the cloud now, and we've got Google and Microsoft that are all running those type of systems. So a lot of change has been really occurring here. Now, if we look at it, in the past, we had, these historic traffic flows, and we talk about this across all environments. It's been a lot of the same. A lot of traffic stayed internal, and only a little bit kind of went out to the internet. That's obviously been a huge transformation. Now, I know you're looking at this, you're saying a school, and then you've got your data center or central office, wherever your central office for all your computer systems might be. And then I show roaming and mobile on the side. There was no such thing as roaming and mobile in the past, really, in the education system. Everybody was in class. Everybody was in the same building, in the same classroom. So there really wasn't much of a need for that. But, just a short period later, and we start seeing this whole thing flipped on its head. Obviously now very little traffic is inbound and a lot of it is going outbound. And I'm going to talk about some of these things where, that main firewall, whether you had one at every school or just one big one at that data center central office, maybe at your high school or whatever, there was, that may be how you ran, but now with all the traffic going there, you're putting a huge load on those resources and on those devices, and they're becoming a bottleneck. Going to give you an example. We had one school, and this wasn't just this one school system, but many school systems were doing this, where when they went from in their journey of supporting COVID and from, in classroom learning to remote learning to hybrid learning and all that kind of stuff, during their hybrid learning, they were encouraging their students to use the tools that the remote students were with things like WebEx. So what was this doing? This was putting a big load on those internet pipes and on those firewalls and things because they were going out to the internet again. And quite honestly, you don't need to inspect that traffic, but you were doing it by default. And we were seeing a lot of school districts having capacity issues because their firewalls, which were designed to do 10 gig, are now, they're trying to put 30 gig through it, and it just wasn't working for them. So this was a huge shift. And although this, although SASE was defined well before COVID, obviously the impact of it was significant to show where this type of tool and this type of functionality will really assist in the future. We've also had that kind of, a network transformation where that data center no longer has to be the center of the world. It can be, each individual entity, each individual school, high school, elementary school, what have you, can all come in. If a faculty member is remote, if their student is remote, they can gain that kind of same experience. So it's now all becoming internet cloud centric. And again, it's because all of those applications were driven to the cloud. As we go through what we're seeing here, and I'm just going to kind of lay this out a little bit, is we have replaced that traditional firewall that would sit on your premise, and we've moved it up into the cloud. And what we've done there is we've allowed that to now be a cloud security stack where you have various functions that live within the cloud. Now, how does this help you? Well, it helps in a lot of different ways. One of the first ways is you have the scalability to be able to dynamically change what type of usage you're having. If you have this type of setup and you need users to be remote, you need extra bandwidth, you need extra throughput, those capabilities are there because it's just a cloud-based offering of everything that you may have physical within inside your network today. As we look at this, we have that secure cloud network fabric. And I'm going to go through what some of the acronyms are up on the top in a later slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time now. But again, what we're looking at here is instead of connecting everything into that data center central office type scenario, hey, let's go right out to the cloud. Let's go right out to the internet. But we still want that policy and control that's required in the education space, right? It's mandated. It has to be there. Those controls have to be there. So we can put not only those controls, but we can give you a lot of advanced capability as we talk about how users access the system as they go forward. So let's talk about a couple of the different basic parts of the SASE services framework, and I'll go into this in even more detail if we have time. But first of all, there's two portions to it. There's the security side, and there's also the there's the security side, there's also the networking side. So this takes some of the network capabilities that you would be required to have on-prem and pushes them into the cloud. And quite honestly, it makes it somebody else's problem, right? Same with security. We're pushing things in there. So think about high availability, think about backup, think about policy consistency, think about scalability. All of those things now are no longer something that you need to necessarily be concerned with. Those are all taking place in the cloud, and they now become the vendor's concern, and us making sure that we're meeting the SLAs and everything that you're supposed to be getting. Let's see here. Yep. There we go. If we look at this from a school district's perspective, and we take a look at this, you may have entities that are connected via MPLS. You may have them that are connected via just the internet or dark fiber, and they're all coming into the data center. But they're all coming to that central location, whether it's a data center or some other central location, just to really get out to the internet, because that's where the LMS lives. That's where Google and Microsoft lives. That's where you may be putting up some of these other applications in private clouds to support those systems. So really, the way the network has been designed over the past 20 years has really changed. As we move around, what we also find is that those schools, not that they're necessarily managed independently, but because they're separate entities, they may have their own devices, they may have their own firewalls, things of that nature. Obviously, that means that those devices, those on-prem services, have to be managed individually and independently as independent entities. Obviously, the security issues that already are within the environment still persist even in this environment. We also have seen, just again, that traffic from remote video and remote learning has just blew the traffic away from what everybody anticipated just 24 months ago. Now, as we look, how does this change? Well, when everything happened, everything just kind of blew up, right? We started having to have remote faculty, remote staff, students were remote, then they became hybrid. It was really just, a little bit of everything everywhere. And again, we were forcing them just to go out to get to the learning management centers, in a lot of cases through the data centers. Now, luckily, for most people, their students didn't have to come back into the network. They could go directly out to the environments, to the LMSs, to the Googles and Microsofts of the world, and everything was fine. But the staff and faculty may have had to come in for other reasons, and they had to, gain new accesses into the environment that weren't really ever planned for. So what do we do? Well, the shift really means is get rid of all that centralization, decentralize everything, but you don't have to decentralize your visibility or your security around the network. So in this case, what we're doing is we're decentralizing around that campus, and we're re-centralizing around the cloud, around the internet. And what we're doing first is, before you get out to the internet, before you get through there, you're still going to be going through a security service. Now, what's nice about this is you can have one policy that applies to everything. So you can have, a faculty policy, a staff policy, a student policy, so on and so forth, but you don't have to define those at the individual school level or the individual device level. It's now ubiquitous across the entire system, and they come into that. They get the security that is required or mandated, and then they're able to get to the services that they're allowed to get to do what they're allowed to do. And this really is what changes that that environment. So let's talk a little bit deeper about a couple of some of the key attributes of SASE. So one of the first things is cloud security capabilities. So part of this is with our Cisco Umbrella service. And one of the first things that you'll see here is DNS layer security. So just to talk about that for a second, we can have things with that DNS layer security that not only help protect, faculty and staff from ransomware and things of that nature, but it can also protect the students from going out to sites. It provides their content filtering and things of that nature. So again, whether that student's on site, off site, in the school system, someplace else, they get the same consistent policy across their device. Secure Web Gateway, again, providing that proxy type service and data loss prevention and remote browser isolation, things to help protect the end user. Of course, we have our cloud delivered firewall. So again, you're not losing any of the capabilities. You're still programming your firewall, but you're doing it at a layer that actually affects everything. And it makes it so much more simple to understand the policies, obviously to make sure that they're applied to the right devices specifically. And again, it doesn't matter if those users are on net, off net. If it's a guest that comes into the school system, they're all going to be protected by that cloud delivered firewall. Now, our cloud access security broker, a very important part. This is what looks at things like self-harm and bullying and stuff like that, so that in that school system, you have those type of security and controls on there. And again, all of this in the cloud, no on-prem equipment, very simple to deploy. And then you have things like our interactive threat intelligence, which comes with all of our security products, and then our SecureX platform, again, that comes with all of our security products to help you from a single pane of glass manage your environment securely. Secure access by Duo. Certainly, if you're in a K through 12 environment, we're not necessarily talking about the students using multi-factor authentication. Maybe when you get later in the high school ages, potentially higher ed has definitely, we've seen some movement toward MFA. But you have that multi-factor authentication for students and faculty. That obviously solves a big problem that we've seen with some of the malicious activity that has taken place while we were in these remote learning environments. Device posture and health, making sure that those devices that are no longer on the network because they may be remote for whatever reason are still healthy. Least privilege access, continuous verification, and then obviously looking at behavioral analytics to understand the security of the entity. All of this is backed by our SD-WAN capability and offering, which provides all of the back-end networking type functionality that you would expect of your wide area network, just in a cloud native format. So you get all of the analytics and app automation, you get those service level agreement, and you understand what those service levels are. You get your behavior analytics so that it can automatically move traffic based on what's going on. If you have a big upswing in, say, WebEx activity or remote video activity, it can account for that. Access to multiple clouds, whether you're using Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Azure, whatever it might be, and you get all the telemetry about it as well. We can also layer on top of this our Thousand Eyes and our internet and cloud intelligence to really dig into what may be happening if that's a need to understand how the applications are performing, so that you can ensure that every one of your students, and you can look at this almost on a student by student basis if you want to make sure that all of them are getting the educational experience that they deserve and that they should be getting. You can look at that from their perspective. Are they able to see the video? Are they able to interact with the courseware? All of that kind of stuff. Are they having problems? And it can help you gain insight into all of those different things that may be going on. Internet and WAN health and the remote user experience, remote student, faculty, staff, whatever it is, they can take that into account. Now, let's see. As we move on here, here's a couple of the areas where this really helps. So first of all, highly available global cloud. Again, this takes all the load off the IT staff within the organization from doing backups, doing upgrades of the systems, potentially having to get new hardware because you've scaled beyond what you currently have because of the way you now need to teach. Deployment automation, you get the integrated visibility and streamlined threat hunting. You get to see again that end user, visibility in there. And one of the other things that we also talk about is how we've seen teaching progress. And we're talking to many new organizations within the K through 12 space and within the higher ed space. But even within that K through 12 space, there's a lot of institutions that are looking at doing a either fully remote offering or a hybrid remote offering as part of their standard teaching portfolio for students to help bring in students that may be at risk or to bring those students back into the education system. So there's a lot of new methodology and technology that we've ultimately learned and are now going to take advantage of to bring and educate even more people into the environment. And lastly, just a couple more slides, what our vision is. Well, we want to connect and secure pretty much everything. It doesn't matter whether it's a workload or a remote user, or, like I said, student, educator, faculty, staff. We don't care if they're at fixed locations or if they're at different locations or pop-up locations, obviously all of their devices. The coverage is quite honestly instant. So you can bring in a new device that you want to hand out to a student or a faculty member, and within minutes have that device fully stood up with all of these services and just hand it off to them, knowing that they're going to have a full suite of security that mimics exactly what they would have if they were sitting in that classroom learning. And all of that capped off with deep visibility and insight into how that network is behaving and how the educator and the student is experiencing their learning journey. A couple of our differentiators, we're comprehensive in both network and security. So basically, we've got both the network side of this and the security side of it. So we can bring that together more simplistically for you to bring that about in a very easy to use fashion. End-to-end service, user to the application, solution for every stage of a customer's cloud transformation. So this is important. You could say, hey, listen, we've got something over here that we like. Maybe we like our system that we're using to detect if there's bullying or self-harm or things of that nature, and we don't want to use yours. This is all a building block technology where you can literally piece it together like Legos, and you could say, you know what, I like the functionality that solution offers. No problem. That can still be layered on top of this. You don't lose anything. Or we have customers that are like, I just bought firewalls 2 years ago. They're not going anywhere. I can't really take advantage of this, but you still can take advantage, and you don't need to necessarily turn on the firewall portion of this. You could use it just for the DLP type capabilities or the content filtering capabilities, things of that nature. So it's very robust in how you do this. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you have certain devices that are going end of life and you're planning on removing them, you can start it there and move on from there. All right. Anyway, that's it. And I'd like to thank you. And I'm going to actually turn over to Fred to see if he's got any questions.
Corey, I think that kind of what you've discussed today is pretty compelling from the standpoint that, you're talking about, kind of decentralizing the campus and centralizing on the cloud. So I think that that's like a major point that, you hit upon, that I think that our education customers are really considering, right? Because as we kind of move into the new normal, right, I think hybrid learning is going to be, this kind of, key learning modality that our educational customers are going to continue to leverage. And so from that perspective, I think the other points that you hit on, scalability, visibility, open platform, right, being extensible, right, to all their existing components, right, giving them a path to the cloud, but not necessarily forcing them to the cloud. Our customers are going to need those types of flexibilities as they kind of move forward, and they're going to need the visibility and the insight and the observability to what their users are doing, whether they be in the classroom or having that remote experience from home. So I think that that's really compelling, man. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think, and in talking with a lot of educators over the past year, listening to how they're reinventing education to address their school district's requirements has been really very interesting. And, also watching how different ones have been morphing it as they learn more. What's nice about this is this gives them the ability to morph that kind of educational experience and the tools that they use from that education with the flexibility to still be able to apply that security as well as mandated things like content filtering and things of that nature. And then obviously, the other thing that we always have to hit on, that we always have to think about when we're talking in the K through 12 space, is E-rate fundability. And today, we have portions of this is E-rate fundable, and we continue to work with the FCC to bring E-rate fundable across the entire solution. But there are portions that can be taken advantage of today and paid through E-rate.
yeah, absolutely. And then not only that, funding is a consideration, but also kind of the CARES Act and all the additional funding that's coming in. So,
Absolutely.
our customers could be looking to leverage that and supplement to the E-rate funding to kind of help move their, security stack forward. I mean, really compelling presentation, man. Thank you so much.
Excellent. And thanks again for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great. And very quickly, gang, I just want to share some quick kind of content here just to kind of wrap it up. So allow me to share my screen. So resources, just want to make sure that everybody sees this. So the presentation that Corey provided today, which was fantastic, just kind of some great slides on, thinking about, what SASE is and what it means to you. Well, we've got that presentation, so that's in the Solution Hub, so you can add that to your digital tote bag. So you have that. We are going to make this recording available. So if you want to watch this after the fact, we encourage you to absolutely do so. And then there's other stuff, right? So please make sure that you come to our microsite, right? We've got the QR code right there. If you want the mini URL, the tiny URL, we've got the cs.co ISTE21 there. So please go check that out, and you can kind of see our live microsite that we've created for ISTE. It's got links out to our Educator Resource Center. We've got links out to Cisco Networking Academy, where currently we've got over 100,000 students going through training for Cisco to inevitably become engineers like myself and like Corey. So I think that that's fantastic. We also have, the Why Cisco for Education conversation linked from our microsite, so please feel free to check that out. And then, of course, all of the virtual field trips that we can enable through our amazing platform, WebEx. And then there's also, the Chris Martin thing out there. So please feel free to check that out, because, he connected with some students all across the globe and just had some really great conversations of, kind of thanking educators and discussing kind of what education means to him. So please check that out. And with that, I will leave you, everybody. Thank you so much, and we appreciate the time and attention today. Have a great day.